You're taught that predators are old men in alleys. You're not told that a friend, a socialite, a woman can be a predator too.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 notorious crimes from 2022.
Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, hospitalized after a violent attack with a hammer in the San Francisco home he shares with the speaker.
For this list, we're looking at the most high-profile crimes, convictions, and court cases that were points of discussion or change in 2022. We'll only be looking at crimes committed by individuals and not at international conflicts like the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We also won't be looking at civil cases like Depp v. Heard either, as this was not a criminal trial. The writer of How to Murder Your Husband arrested for murder. In May, romance novelist Nancy Crampton Brophy was convicted for murdering her husband. This story made national news because she had previously written an online essay titled How to Murder Your Husband.
This morning, a romance novelist who once wrote an essay entitled How to Murder Your Husband is on trial for just that.
Ultimately, the incriminating treatise wasn't used in the trial. There was plenty of evidence without it. Prosecutors revealed that Crampton Brophy had purchased an online kit for an untraceable gun. She also bought a Glock 17 at a gun show and a separate slide and barrel online.
Nancy failed to mention that she had purchased a ghost gun build kit online. She also failed to mention that she purchased a slide and barrel from eBay.
The novelist claimed these were research for a future book. Her van was seen driving to and from the scene of the murder. The couple was having money problems, and her husband had a significant life insurance policy. Crampton Brophy was sentenced to life in prison.
There's a mandatory sentence in Oregon. It's 25 to life. She'll be eligible for parole when she is 92.
Rainbow Fentanyl Drug Bust. It was big news in mid-October when the DEA seized 300,000 multicolored fentanyl pills in the Bronx. This bust came just a few days after another seizure of the same candy-colored pills in Manhattan. The increased spread of what has been coined rainbow fentanyl was a huge source of concern.
Refers to fentanyl powder and pills that are brightly colored. That's what it is. The DEA first issued a warning about it 4 weeks ago.
Just 2 milligrams is enough to be a lethal dose. The DEA issued a warning about the dangers of the drug and the possible targeting of young people. Having pills that resemble candy in circulation so close to Halloween had officials and parents very worried.
We need to all be talking to our kids and to our families about this. Our kids already know something about the threat out there, but they don't understand that they should never, ever take any pill that was not prescribed directly to them.
Art targeted in climate protest. Museums were hit with a series of art vandalizations in October. Tomato soup was hurled at Vincent van Gogh's painting Sunflowers in London.
Is it worth more than food? Worth more than justice? Are you more concerned about the protection of a painting or the protection of our planet and people?
Protesters in Germany threw mashed potatoes at Claude Monet's Les Meules. A demonstrator in the Netherlands tried to glue his head to Vermeer's iconic painting Girl with a Pearl Earring.
The girl with a pearl earring, the latest target of climate protesters.
How do you feel when you see something beautiful and priceless being apparently destroyed before your eyes?
The art sabotage was a way of bringing attention to the damage caused by the fossil fuel and oil industries. One protester shared that they wanted people to feel outrage at seeing a brilliant piece of art damaged. They felt this was how everyone should feel about the destruction of the planet. Fortunately, all of the vandalized paintings were behind glass and not damaged by the incidents.
The activists wanted to convey the connection between the consequences of climate change and human suffering.
Officers charged in Breonna Taylor case. In March 2020, 7 plainclothes police officers battered down the apartment door of 26-year-old Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky. Thinking they were intruders, Taylor's boyfriend fired, hitting one officer in the leg. They fired back 32 times, killing Taylor.
Say her name! Breonna Taylor!
Taylor's death and the murder of George Floyd sparking protests across the country.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor!
Initially, Taylor's boyfriend was charged with attempted murder. Taylor's death sparked protests against police brutality and racism across the U.S. A grand jury decided not to indict the officers, but in August 2022, an FBI investigation resulted in charges against 4 of the officers for violating Taylor's civil rights.
Justice Department has charged 4 current and former Louisville Metro Police Department officers with federal crimes related to Ms. Taylor's death.
In the first conviction in the case, Officer Kelly Goodlett pleaded guilty to falsifying documents to obtain a search warrant and lying to cover it up. For Taylor's family and friends, it was the first step on the long road to justice.
What we've been seeing on day one, y'all learning what we've been seeing was the truth. That they shouldn't have been there and that Breonna didn't deserve that.
Seditious conspiracy charges. On January 6, 2021, Donald Trump's false claims that the federal election had been stolen prompted supporters to storm the U.S. Capitol building in an attack that left 5 dead. Their goal was to overturn the election results and reinstall Trump as president. Key organizers and participants included neo-fascist street gang the Proud Boys and anti-government militias the Oath Keepers and the 3 Percenters. In 2022, the Department of Justice charged key members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers with seditious conspiracy, the most serious charge brought against those who took part in the riot. Several have been found guilty, including Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes.
Seditious conspiracy is the most serious charge, Ken, that we have seen against any of the, insurrectionists who were at the Capitol that day.
Heist of the century. In July, the driver of a Brinks security truck took a nap inside, while the other driver left to get food. While he was sleeping, someone broke the seal on the truck and cut the lock away.
One of 2 Brinks drivers was sleeping and the other was getting food when thieves broke into an armored truck last month carrying millions of dollars in jewelry.
The thieves stole jewelry from a collection that was part of an international gem and jewelry show. Even though the receipts put the total worth at $8.7 million, the jewelry's value may have been closer to $100 million.
Brinks Security said the vendors claimed it added up to $10 million, but exhibitors are now tallying it up to be between $100 and $150 million total.
Due to the cost of the insurance premiums, small jewelry owners often undervalue their merchandise. If the higher price tag is true, then this could be one of the largest jewelry heists of this century.
We are working with law enforcement and we will fully reimburse our customers for the value of their assets that were stolen in accordance with the terms of our contract.
Ghislaine Maxwell Sentenced. Former socialite Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison for sex trafficking in June of this year.
Judge going above the guideline range to sentence her to 20 years in jail, more than was initially called for, in hitting her with maximum fines.
She was part of a scheme that provided underage girls for her boyfriend Jeffrey Epstein. The case against Maxwell was one of the most prominent cases in the media. It reflected the Me Too movement's focus on bringing rich and powerful abusers to justice. The judge stated that Maxwell didn't seem to take any responsibility for her own actions.
That's something that the judge picked up. She said it was kind of a pattern of putting the blame aside.
Instead, she placed the blame on her boyfriend. A prosecutor in the case stated, quote, "This sentence sends a strong message that no one is above the law, and it is never too late for justice."
It's been an emotional, dramatic day at the court here in New York City, and it is not over.
The assassination of Shinzo Abe. The longest-serving prime minister in Japanese history, Shinzo Abe retired from the position in 2020.
Shinzo Abe, the longest-serving prime minister in the country, he served 2 terms. He was very familiar to people around the world, very familiar on the world stage.
In July of 2022, while giving a speech at a political rally, Abe was shot at close range by Tetsuya Yamagami.
A shocking act of political violence during an election campaign event, a shooting in a country where gun crime is very rare.
Yamagami blamed the former prime minister for his mother's bankruptcy. Abe had ties to the Unification Church, known for pressuring its members to donate large amounts of money.
He believed the former prime minister was tied to a religious group that he said his mother obsessed over, which eventually caused her financial stress.
Although the shooting didn't have much effect on the political campaign in progress, it was a huge media event. There hadn't been a politically motivated assassination in Japan since 1960. Paul Pelosi attacked in home. In October, Canadian man David DePape broke into the home of the U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
The intruder shouted, "Where is Nancy?" when he confronted her husband. The assailant tried to tie up Paul Pelosi until, quote, Nancy got home.
He had a history of mental health issues and had embraced far-right conspiracy theories such as Pizzagate, QAnon, and Donald Trump's big lie about the 2020 election. Finding Nancy Pelosi's husband Paul in bed, he demanded to know where his wife was. Pelosi managed to call 911, but when police arrived, he and DePape were fighting over a hammer.
At that point, Jenkins said, police immediately apprehended the suspect.
DePape attacked Pelosi before the police could restrain him, resulting in a fractured skull. DePape's reported intention was to kidnap the House Speaker, interrogate her, and break her kneecaps if he thought she was lying. DePape faces multiple state and federal charges.
David DePape now faces multiple charges, including attempted murder. He'll be arraigned later today.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The Uvalde tragedy. On May 24th, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos entered Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and fatally shot 19 students and 2 teachers.
An outpouring of solidarity and compassion from so many people who are showing support and understanding has happened.
He wounded 17 others. This horrible event continued to dominate the media when it was revealed that officers waited 74 minutes before breaching the classroom.
Authorities gave differing accounts of what happened, raising questions about how law enforcement responded as the rampage continued for 77 minutes.
A Texas House committee report detailed multiple failures. The school didn't follow its safety plan. The police officers abandoned their active shooter training. There was continual miscommunication between first responders. It was a response without clear leadership that resulted in chaos. The head of the Department of Public Safety called the response to the shooting a, quote, abject failure.
There's compelling evidence that the law enforcement response to the attack at Robb Elementary was an abject failure and antithetical to everything we've learned over the last 2 decades since the Columbine massacre.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.